worry about your kids or students' media use or making sure they're developing digital media literacy, then today's live is going to be for you. We're talking with an expert on digital media and media literacy for kids, and so it's going to be a really good opportunity to talk about all of those questions you might have around media and how your kids might engage with the media, how your students might engage with media. So our guest will be joining me shortly here. It is Danny LaBreque. He runs the popular YouTube channel Danny Joe's Treehouse and has recently launched Danny Joe's Treehouse for Grown-ups. So if you're not familiar, it's a classic live-action children's series that teaches social emotional learning in the digital age. And I'm just letting resources for parents, teachers, caregivers who are navigating social emotional learning in the digital age, which is most of us. So Danny is known as an expert in kids media and social emotional development, and today we'll be talking about the impact of media, the impact it has on kids, and what grown-ups can do about it. Hi, Danny.
Hello, Danny Joe's Treehouse. Danny Joe speaking. How may I help you? Oh, you know what? I'm going to use the phone instead of the tin can phone. It'll be faster. Hi.
Hi, Danny.
How are ya?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Well, honestly though, we're kind of in a pickle here at the
Okay.
treehouse.
What's going on?
Yeah. There's
Treehouse?
well, you're going to be good at this, and your audience will be good with this too. Your community will be good with this. We've got a lot of grown-ups down in the playground below the treehouse, and this new communication device was introduced. And the grown-ups are arguing about it. They're debating. They're having a rough time meeting in the middle. And I think this conversation might help. The new thing, it's called the My Stick. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
My Stick. Everybody's got one down there. All the kids, all the grown-ups. Yeah. And some of the grown-ups are saying, put that thing down. You're going to poke your eye out. Don't even think about touching it. I know. They want to ban it. Just get rid of it. And then other grown-ups are like, oh, you found a My Stick. This is great. You can do anything with it. You can draw with it, play pretend. It can be anything you want. You can communicate however you want with it. Go ahead and do whatever you like. So we're trying to find like this in between. Yeah. And I think maybe this conversation will help. I hope so anyway.
I hope so too. I think a lot of parents and teachers are struggling with that in between and finding the in between. So yeah, I'm excited to chat with you, Danny.
Me too. Thanks for playing along, by the way. I can't help myself. I like playing pretend.
No, I love it. I think we're showing our community how you do what you do. I was just saying you do a live action show for kids. And so I think it's a perfect introduction to what you do and how fun it is for little ones and for grown-ups.
It really is. Yeah, and all the conversations, they come from moments like interactive screens, talking with real families in the classroom, and then those stories become the stories on our show. That's kind of a show, more of an experience, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that from what I've seen. So go check out the show. We'll talk more about that too. But today we want to talk about kids and media. So I was just introducing you and your background, Danny. And, you clearly know a lot about this. You've thought a lot about this over the years in terms of media use. Why should parents, caregivers, and educators be thinking about this?
Well, I think it's just part of our fabric, right? I've been in the field of early childhood development for 25 years now. Started as a preschool teacher and went into museum education, and now I'm using media a lot to connect. Yeah. And back in the day, it was passive screens, radio. Now we have these cool interactive screens that my predecessors used to only pretend to talk through the screen. Now we can literally talk through the screen. There's all these wonderful things that are happening, and there's all this stuff right on the horizon, or maybe even we've just crossed over into with virtual reality and layered reality and all these wonderful things. And I think what we as a community need to be thinking about is things aren't bad. Tools aren't bad. It doesn't matter if it's a stick or a stone or a phone, whatever. We decide how to use the tool, not the other way around. Yeah. And I don't know if we model the best behavior often for our young children. So that's been at the top of my mind. And I think that's an important thing to be thinking about and talking about and playing about.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And I love that you're saying, like, the tools aren't bad, the tools themselves. One thing folks kind of talk about a lot in this space is screen time and limiting screen time, which obviously, has value and has place. But is it all about limiting screen time? Is it all about keeping kids off the screen, or what else should parents and educators be thinking about when it comes to regulating media use?
It's funny with media, terms change so
Yeah.
quickly. So even the terms of screen time, it's kind of becoming outdated in some
Oh,
way.
okay.
Yeah, because no two screens are the same,
Yeah.
and it's not just screen; it's different types of surfaces, right? And it's different types of
Yeah.
devices. So it's always changing. So again, regardless of what the tool is, I think it's less about um, demanding what should happen
Yeah.
and more encouraging children and us to think critically and with empathy.
Yeah.
I've always been the type of teacher that's more interested in encouraging people to think
Hmm.
instead of just telling them what to
Yeah.
think. Um, and forgive me, I'm very much in kid show host mode right now.
Oh, you're
So if it sounds all cutesy, but I think there's real root truth to that.
yeah.
It's so important right now that we learn how to think critically and
Yeah.
with empathy, and the tools move so quickly. So I think there's a lot of conversation about rules and regulation and governments coming in and making these broad brush strokes of
Hmm.
regulation. And sometimes that kind of works, sometimes it doesn't. Often there are all these
Yeah.
get-arounds. Classic children's television, rules and regulations were put in place so that people like me couldn't hold up a thing and say, hey kid, ask your parent to buy this thing.
Hmm.
But with modern day screens on YouTube, it's very
Yeah.
easy, even with present day regulations, to do product placement and indirect, play of a product, and there's no consequences with that. So
Yeah.
we can rely on the authorities, the leaders to take care of it, or we as parents and caregivers and teachers and the children themselves can start to have conversations about what am I seeing? How is this impacting me? How am I going to use the tool for communication instead of being used by that
Yeah.
tool?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about like how media has changed over the years. What does that mean for how we parent and educate our kids in terms of like media changing and keeping up with everything?
Yeah, it's I've been thinking about that a lot as a parent.
Yeah.
My kids are now 13 and 11.
Hmm.
And it used to be a lot easier. I determined what tools were being used and I could guide a little bit more. And now, very naturally, they're wanting to explore more on their own
Yeah.
and make their own discoveries in real life and through their
Hmm.
devices. Uh, and I think it does come back again to having those conversations on and off screen, on off different surfaces of what's happening here, how is this being used, what's the message coming to us, and why are they targeting
Hmm.
us, whether it's consuming or selling or manipulation or
Yeah.
propaganda or whatever, like what's happening there.
Hmm.
So it really is about empowerment, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I answered the question
Yeah,
directly.
no, you did. And actually, it goes right into the next question I was going to ask, which is something you've talked about on your Grown-Ups channel is the acronym PLAY. And that helps give grown-ups kind of tips for helping their kids navigate the media. So, can you tell us about the meaning of play?
Sure. Oh, there's so many different meanings of play, right?
There are.
Um, but this is a fun way to remember
Yeah.
conversation starters. That's what I'm really interested in, right?
Okay.
So P in play is about participate.
Hmm.
Uh, so be an active member. Get into it. If your kid's really into some video game, try it out. And that doesn't necessarily, depending on the age and
Right.
stage, that doesn't mean cramping the style and getting in there when they don't necessarily want you to play
Yeah.
with them. But be aware, understand what is the thing that's so engaging about whatever the thing is. If it's a show or a game or an experience, why is that so engaging? Like learn the language, play with the stuff, participate. And also when you're playing with your own games and consuming your own media, look at how you're participating with it, because of course we model so much behavior non-verbally. It's not just what we say, it's, what we model.
Right.
Yeah. And then L is for listening, active listening, not just to the words that are being said, but reading in between the line, especially with young kids. Young kids don't necessarily always have the words to say how they're feeling about something. But if you watch the way that a child's engaging with a tool, with whatever device, you can get a pretty good idea of where they're at. I've said with very young children at play, with blocks and different types of toys and things that they find outside. It's, if you really, really watch and you're just observing, it's almost like watching a lucid dreamer. Like a young child at play is like a lucid dreamer, and you can interpret the dream a bit. Not to find solutions, but to just kind of see where they're at. So really using active listening, and that really does apply to every age group, even our fellow adults. Yeah, it's PLA. Being active and accepting. Accepting, I think, is the hardest part, because it's pretty easy to say, as a parent, I'm with you, I completely accept you exactly as you are. But then there are those moments where it's like, oh, but I don't like the way you're talking right now, or I don't like the behavior that's going on, or I don't completely understand this. So my knee-jerk reaction is going to happen. That's tough. That takes a lot of practice to be in that space of acceptance. And that doesn't mean if a child or an older child is about to hurt themselves or hurt someone else, of course we step in, and of course we can redirect and use all these different tools. But being with them again, accepting. And then Y is for you, coming back to us. I think of myself in many ways as an influencer, and my knee jerk to it is, influencer. The kid shows, but there's something to a talking head on a screen, and something that some of my predecessors taught me was you can't control the actions of others, but you can influence them with your own actions. So what are you doing? How are you interacting with your devices? When do you put it down? What other things are you doing in the world to show that you're not just a consumer, but you're a creator too? That goes a long way beyond just the lecturing. Play means being part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think that's so helpful, hopefully really like actionable for all of us grown-ups to start thinking about now, like what's our role in it. And also I just like what you said about conversation starters. I think we like to use a lot of conversation starters too. It really like kicks things off, just to chat about it. Like it doesn't always have to be a big lesson, or it doesn't always have to be a lecture. It can just be, hey, let's have a conversation about this. And
it's such a good lesson. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to say it's such a good lesson, because so often I think, especially in our country, there's a language around winning and getting it right and testing and achieving the thing, right? And it's a process. It's an ongoing process, and the rules are constantly changing. So again, going back to critical thinking and empathy, it's staying on your toes and modeling how to go through that process. And there are so many solutions to one problem. There could be multiple outcomes, right? And if you mess up, if you really mess up, you can know that you just try again. That's all part of it too. But I'm preaching to the choir. I've seen your boxes. I know.
It's what we try to do. It's what we try to teach. But yeah, I think it can never be reinforced enough, because I think we're all, even as grown-ups, we're learning and unlearning this process and figuring it out as we go. And admitting when we're wrong is kind of hard, but we're modeling that for our kids too. So kind of all of that. I think something that's really like fun about digital media for me with kids is that sometimes they are way more advanced than we are, and they know actually a lot more about it than we do, or they figure it out a lot more quickly than we do. So that can be scary, I think, as like parents and educators, because sometimes they're a few steps ahead of us. But I think it also gives us kind of a moment to step back and say, hey, this really is a learning experience where we're all learning from each other.
Yeah, and there's an example of our children modeling behavior for us too. One of my mentors, his name's David Newell. He's the gentleman that played Mr. McFeely, Mr. Rogers' neighbor. And he said it's not that kids today have changed. impacts that the world around them has. Meaning a lot of different things, but that it's not necessarily that kids are more advanced in one thing or another with certain new technologies. It's that human beings, before we are conditioned to conform and think in certain ways, we're so open with play and with discovering and making mistake and just messing with things to figure it out. So often a younger child, doesn't have those blocks in place. So they do figure these things out. And that's something for us to take away, to let go a little bit and really think of, these sort of tools as just another thing for us to communicate, to connect through and enjoy the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So do you have any other advice or tips that you want to leave our caregivers and educators with today when it comes to kids and media?
Yes, I think that often with media literacy, we think a lot about the tools themselves and media literacy being connected to how to use certain tools, like we were just talking about. But it doesn't have to happen with these sort of devices. These devices are going to keep changing and changing and changing and changing. TikTok will be the MySpace of the future. It's always changing. But stuff like this, a stick, just going outside, being in nature, playing with the blocks on the carpet, like there are so many opportunities to practice social skills and negotiation and so social media and that lesson of and I see you and I acknowledge you. See, you can count. You can see your value through the counts. That is such a strange lesson that we've all been conditioned by, right? So to have conversations about what does it mean to truly be liked and to like yourself. Our first our first episode of our current season, which my wife Stephanie and I, by the way, we make our show from our home. This is all in our basement. And it's really fun.
It sounds fun.
You're always welcome, by the way, if you're ever in Baltimore.
Okay. No. I'll come back.
Let's do. But I bring that up because it's. Why did I bring that up? What were we talking about a second ago?
We were talking about. Gosh. Okay.
Different things we can use to play with.
I think kind of just the fundamentals of play.
Fundamentals of play, right? The first episode of our current season. That's what I was trying to get to. In some ways, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot because the very first episode of this current season is me saying, "Oh, you don't have to push a button to show me that you like me. It is much more important to me that you know that I like you. I hope you like you." Like we can use the tools in very unexpected ways to have very authentic interactions. And when I say we, I don't just mean Danjo's Treehouse. I mean any creator. The end goal does not have to be fame and fortune. Like those are side effects of communicating passionately and with authenticity. And then one other thing, we just made our first children's book.
Oh my gosh!
It's called I Like You More Than My Phone. And
this.
We workshopped it with a bunch of parents throughout Baltimore City classrooms. And the big lesson at the end is, I really like my phone, but I always remember I love you. So in some ways, it's a script. It's got characters from our show, little cartoon.
Oh yes.
But really, it's about that type of media literacy. Of how do we use the tool? What are we connecting with? Because so often all these young kids and our peers see us doing this, but there isn't the conversation of, oh, I'm talking to grandma. She's worried about that. I want to send her a picture of you. Like we can use it in a responsible way. But I see you here. I'm with you. I'm going to put this down. Like those sort of conversations are important. So this is again a conversation starter, and we just self-published it. But you can find it on our website and LinkedIn bio stuff. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned
that. So we can get it now?
Yeah, it's out. We did a very short run. A bunch of them are in schools right now.
Awesome.
We recently signed do you know Epic for kids, the digital? world's largest digital library. And they're in lots of schools.
Yeah.
And we're one of the first video series.
Oh, wow.
We're on there, and we're on Sensical TV,
Awesome.
YouTube Kids.
Yeah.
But they're all about books. That's why I made
Okay.
them.
Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. So
Forgive me for promoting myself so hard.
Of course. Actually, my next question was, where can our community find you and connect with your work?
There you go. And just going to our website, the book, the website dangeroustreehouse.com. If you don't mind, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps a lot. Insider information: the algorithm, the mean old algorithm dragon, doesn't really care what the content is. It's just looking at how long people are engaging, how long they're watching something.
Yeah.
So one of the best ways you can help a creator that you like, whether it's me or anyone else, beyond just pushing the buttons, it's watching the full videos and co-viewing, being with the child. Because the world of YouTube is a very distracting place. It's not a captive audience sort of thing like our old-fashioned televisions. So if you can be with the child and participate, play, you can get a lot out of it. So check us out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Danny. This has been fun. I love your show, so I hope our community can find your show and connect with it as well. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on today. I know this is a topic a lot of people have a lot of questions about, so appreciate you sharing your insights.
Well, thanks so much. And it's an ongoing conversation, so if anyone wants to keep chatting about it, I'm a really good pen pal.
Okay. Awesome. Good to know. All right. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you so much, Shelby.
Bye.
See you later.